All right, we're gonna do things completely backwards today. Typically, I walk you through all the categories of the review, and then I give you my final thoughts and recommendations at the end. Today, I am just gonna spill the beans. I'm gonna give you my final thoughts and recommendations out of the gate, and then I'm gonna get into my category by category assessment. I think there's a ton of you who watch these videos who are super interested in the really fine detail and analysis that I do, but I also think there's a group of people that really just want a recommendation. They don't wanna spend hours watching videos, and they just wanna get to the goods right away. So typically from a YouTuber perspective, you're trying to leave this like little hook at the end of the video to make people watch as long as possible, because the longer people watch your video, the more engagement you get on YouTube, the higher the likelihood YouTube is gonna push your video out to more people. Here's the thing. I care more about delivering value to you than I do about satisfying some algorithm that, to be quite honest, doesn't really care about hunting content anyways. So we're gonna run an experiment. I'm gonna do this for the next few videos. If you guys like this more, drop the notes in the comments below. Maybe watching the final thoughts and recommendations right out of the gate will actually incentivize you to be more interested in the technical details that come afterwards. So anyways, that's what we're gonna do. Now, what product are we gonna do that for? It is the heated core line from Pnuma. So Pnuma is a hunting apparel company based out of Texas down in the States. And they kind of have a subsidiary line called Heated Core. And they have multiple pieces of heated apparel for winter or cold weather hunting. Specifically today, we are gonna look at the IconX Heated Core long sleeve and the IconX Heated Core Pant. So let's jump right into some context. Who would wear this, and what are the circumstances that would necessitate wearing this gear? I started getting obsessed with whitetail, I want to say 3 years ago now. And one of the only advantages you have as an archer in British Columbia is kind of late season whitetail hunting. So I started getting into late season whitetail hunting, and then I started looking at late season whitetail hunting other places. So far I've been to BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, all in the deep winter. Now I've done lots of deep winter backcountry hunting, but the thing is you're moving a lot, you have different layering requirements, there are different needs from your apparel. The issue with whitetail hunting is that you're sitting completely still. You're either in a ground blind or up in a tree stand. And ideally, you're putting in whole day sits. I'm talking 10, 11, 12 hours straight. Now, when you start getting down to minus 20 degrees Celsius or minus 5 degrees Fahrenheit, sitting still for any more than 10 or 15 minutes can become challenging. So far, in my experimentation, I've basically come up with two options to stay warm in these situations. Option number one is some type of body heater bag. So this is basically, I want you to think like a sleeping bag on steroids. Basically a Carhartt-like external material, a ton of filling, and just a giant bag. Some of them have arms, some of them have armholes, but it's basically a huge sleeping bag that you get in, fully dressed, boots on, whole 9 yards, and you zip it up. And they have such intense insulation, and the material is so robust, you stay incredibly warm inside. The drawback of that system is the lack of movement, especially for archery. A lot of these whitetail are really switched on, and when you try and get out of that bag to come to full draw on your bow, or even like access your gear or take a leak, you end up doing a lot of movement. So big pro, your whole body, including feet, stays super warm. Big drawback, you're gonna get busted real easy. The exception to that would be in a ground blind. You're gonna have a lot more leniency in a ground blind. However, you still have the noise issue. And if you've ever been, especially archery, with archery, your ground blind's only gonna be 30 to 50 yards from your point of interest. They can hear a lot, and they can still see a lot of movement in there. So it still does present some challenges in a ground blind. Option number two is some type of heated gear, like electronically heated gear. I will say right now, this particular system is the best heated system I have tried yet. Now, I still have some other systems I want to try. I haven't tried a lot of the other high-end systems. Most of the systems I've tried have kind of been like the low-end Mark's Work Warehouse, battery-heated socks and gloves type of thing. The other thing that I ran this year was a super high-end pair of insoles from a company called Power in Motion out of Alberta, Canada, that you kind of have to build yourself. They cost like $300. I was also incredibly impressed with those. If you want to see a review on those, drop a note in the comments section below. Now, the benefit of a heated system is movement is a lot easier. These go on as base layers underneath. You can also get heated outer layers. In all the research I did, you're better off heating from the inside out than the outside in. It takes a lot more power to help to heat from the outside in than it does from the inside out. So you're carrying a lot more batteries. There's just a lot more cords, a lot more things that could go wrong. The gear is a lot bulkier. Again, when you want to come to full draw, you're looking for flexibility and movement, ease of movement, and so forth. And so that's one question I'll answer right out of the gate. I think you're better off getting a heated base layer than a heated outer layer. Now, the drawback of the heated system is you basically have the pain in the ass of cords, batteries, battery life, intensity of heat. Anything electronic always has a higher degree of breaking down than something that has no moving parts like a body heater bag. So neither system is perfect. And I'll say right now, if you do a ton of this hunting, you're probably going to want one of each system because different circumstances are going to be better suited for one system or the other. But when I realized I was going to have to invest in a system, late season whitetail hunting was something I was super interested in. I was going to be doing it every single year. I already have 2 late season whitetail hunts planned for this year. I also do a combination of kind of hiking into spots. I realized that for my purposes, a heated base layer system was the best option on the market. And when you start looking around, the heated core system from Pnuma looked to be one of the better options. All right, quick note from our sponsor today before we dive into the video. The sponsor is Forged in the Backcountry and Mindful Reviews. So Mindful Reviews is an online membership-based platform that I started for people interested in non-biased, non-sponsored gear reviews. You can join on a membership basis. We have sweepstakes, we have giveaways, we have a great set of forums. We currently have over 350 members. It's a fantastic community of like-minded individuals who want to support other people in making great gear buying decisions and just become better hunters in general. So if that's something that interests you, please head on over to mindful-reviews.com. Forged in the Backcountry is a lifestyle apparel brand that I started for the backcountry hunter. I wanted some stylish options for when I was in the city and I wanted to wear clothes that still signaled I loved backcountry hunting, that had kind of cool slogans, cool artwork. They were made of really high quality fabric. So I launched Forged in the Backcountry. If you head on over to the website, forgedinthebackcountry.com, we have hats, shirts, hoodies, crew necks, all kinds of options, super cool designs, super high quality clothes. So head on over and check it out. Now, with all that being said, where do I actually rank the heated core system from Pnuma? So I haven't done in-depth analysis of any other heated products. I have some experiences with socks, gloves, vest, mostly lower end stuff like 9-volt battery operated Mark's Work Warehouse quality stuff. None of that holds a candle to this. But take this review with a grain of salt because I would like to look at some of the other higher end options. But to date, this is the best heated base layer option that I have tried yet. Now, I'm going to rank both of these pieces on a scale of 10. I'm going to give the top layer an 8.1, and I'm going to give the bottom layer a 7.5. I would say that the top layer is like a must-have piece of gear if you're going to be late season whitetail hunting. I would say the bottoms are a nice to have, but not a necessity. And if you're curious about why, stay tuned later because there's a lot of detail that go into why I'm making that recommendation that I want to save for the more detailed category-based analysis. So let's give a quick wrap up of all that stuff because this is all you're going to watch of this video. I want to make sure that you're getting the most value possible. So If you're gonna late season whitetail hunt in cold temperatures, you're either gonna need some type of intense insulation like a body heater bag or some type of heated system like the heated core products from Pnuma. In my opinion, for an archery hunter, you're better off going with a heated system because it gives you greater flexibility and less likelihood of getting busted when trying to come to full draw or make some movement in your stand. Of the heated options out there, I think the heated core by Pnuma is the best that I have tried personally yet. However, I'm going to keep trying other pieces of gear, and I will update you as I try those pieces of gear. I ranked the top layer at 8.1 out of 10, and I would say it's a necessity. Like, I would recommend buying this piece of gear immediately if you plan on late season whitetail hunting this year. The pants, I'm not as completely sold on. I would give them a 7.5. I would say they're a decent piece of gear, but I don't think that they're an absolute necessity. So there are my final thoughts and recommendations on the heated core line from Pnuma. Now, for those that are interested, let's dive into some more details. Up first is price. Both of these pieces are currently listed at $119 on the heated core website. Now, they are listed as being on sale from $199. I think they just did have another sale a couple weeks ago. So this is the type of stuff that goes on sale pretty regularly. So, and because it's still so far out from late season, I wouldn't recommend paying full price for this. And side note to all you manufacturers, if you want to do big sales all the time, that's fine, but just recognize you're kind of doing a disservice to your regular clients. And I'm going to recommend for any companies that do big sales all the time, don't pay full price, because if you just wait 2 or 3 months, you'll catch a sale. Pnuma is like this. They're having a ton of sales on all their product right now. Doesn't mean the product is inferior, just means that's the particular pricing and positioning strategy that they've chosen to employ. So $119 a piece. I think for $119, these are a great value. Weight. The shirt was advertised as 17.6 ounces on the website. I'm running an extra large. It actually weighed 20 ounces. It's possible they used a medium or a large for the stated weight on the website. I don't know, but the extra large weighs 20 ounces. The bottoms had no weight listed on the website, but when I weighed them, it was 17.5 ounces. Both of those are weighed without the batteries, but with all of the heating elements, cords, buttons, everything else attached. Materials. So both of these are made from 60% polyester, 23% propylene, and 17% elastane. They are super stretchy, very synthetic feeling. They do not have like a soft merino feel to them. You know they're synthetic right away, but they also don't have that scratchy kind of polyester feeling that most garments do. It's more of a spandex type feel from the high elastane content. They also state that they use a trademarked material called Hydro Wick. I've never heard of this before. They state on the website that it's a high performance hollow wicking fiber to reduce moisture. So take that with a grain of salt. I don't know much about Hydro Wick. We will get into the breathability and the moisture evacuation properties of the garments in a moment. Now, let's talk warmth. So how does this gear work and how warm does it keep you? So there are carbon fiber elements at key places on the apparel that are connected with cords to a battery, and then there's a button that you can turn on and off. There's 3 heat settings: low, medium, and high. For the top garment, there are heat zones in the chest, kidneys, and at the base of the neck. I wore it in minus 20 degrees Celsius, and I found it made an incredible difference. The first thing that I want to recommend when you run heated gear is that you pulse the heat. Don't just turn it on low and leave it all day. Human beings sense and perceive things in increments. And so if you just apply a low heat to your body, after 5 or 10 minutes, that's just the level of heat that you get used to and you don't really notice it anymore. And so I tried that the first day. Battery ran out in a few hours, and then I was kind of cold the rest of the day. Went home, did some more research, and found that a more effective way to run the gear is to pulse it on the medium setting. So what I would do is I would turn it on medium for like 20 minutes. The difference between medium and low was quite significant. The gear would heat up. I would get this like super nice, warm, cozy feeling. And then I would set a little timer on my phone. Phone was on silent, so it just vibrated. And I did that because I actually forgot a couple times and realized I'd left it on for 2 hours when it was unnecessary to do so. Set a little alarm on my phone, shut it off after 20 minutes. I would then stay warm for like a good hour and 15 minutes. When that chill kind of started to set back in, boom, pulse it for another 15 or 20 minutes. I think that's a much more efficient way to run this gear, and you're gonna get a much longer life out of your batteries. Another thing I wanna note is that there's fantastic battery and button placement. On the shirt, you'll notice there's a little pouch down here close to the hem, and then up on the upper left hand where the chest pocket would be, there's this little button. The button changes colors as you go through the different settings. I think it goes from green to yellow to red, if I remember correctly, which lets you know if it's on low, medium, or high. I found that was super useful to know what setting you were in. And I actually have another piece of gear that is a heated gear that doesn't do that. So you keep having to shut it off and then turn it on in increments so you know exactly where you are in your heat settings. But the battery stays nice and tucked in, out of the way. It doesn't get caught on a belt. It doesn't get pinched by any of your other gear. There's not a bunch of long cords going everywhere. Really well thought out battery placement and button placement design. Now, when we go over to the bottoms, there's kind of this small hip pocket. It's got a zipper in it. You plug your battery in, stick it in here, and then there's basically a flap on the inside of the waist belt where the button is. Same color coding, super easy to access. The way these are positioned, I was never turning things on and off by accident. Again, really liked the design of the button and the battery placement. I already mentioned the heat zones being in the chest, kidney, and back of neck for the tops. For the bottoms, it's basically like your lower back, the upper glute. There's basically like a 3-inch area kind of directly below the waistband. Not right down on your butt, kind of right around where your tailbone would be. And then there's two, I don't know, maybe 8-inch by 4-inch or 6-inch strips right on the top of your thighs. Now, this was one of my biggest design complaints, is that I think they could have had more effective heating zones on the pants. I would have loved to see something on the back of the calf or the hamstring. I don't really find the tops of my quads get particularly cold. Heating the lower calf might do a better job inside of your boot of keeping your entire foot warm. I don't know why they only had those two zones, and I don't know why you wouldn't run something down onto the buttocks. A lot of tree stands have mesh seats. So obviously you can put some kind of foam down, but every time you put a layer down, you have the opportunity to create more noise. You have the opportunity to create more movement that could be visible by a deer. I actually find the mesh kind of netting seats very comfortable in tree stands, but it leaves your butt exposed. And so I don't know why you wouldn't kind of have some heating panels. So one of the biggest reasons I gave the pants a 7.5 and the shirt an 8.1 and said the shirt was necessary while the pants were not, is that while it's kind of nice to add an additional bit of heat to the small of your back and your upper thighs, I didn't really find it that necessary. Also, I think it's much easier to wear bulky clothing on your bottom half. Like you can wear a pair of Berber fleece bibs like those, like the Fanatic line from Sitka, or you can wear heavily insulated pants because you're kind of just sitting there all the time, and most of the movement that you want to execute while stand hunting happens in the upper body. So I think there's a lot more bang for your buck of being able to use a thin heated base layer for the top and keep the bulk of your clothing down on the upper body, and then just use bulkier, cheaper clothing on the bottom to keep your lower shelf warm. Okay, moving on to the batteries. The whole system is based on these 7.4 volt lithium batteries, kind of like the size of a Sony or a Canon DSLR mirrorless camera battery, so not too big. The nice thing is there's an additional USB port in each of these batteries, so you can actually use these batteries as a backup power source. So You could charge your phone with it. You could charge all kinds of stuff with it. So it's nice to have that option. You can buy extra batteries. So if you were going to do all day sits and these things, and you were going to start to reliably get below -15 to -20 Celsius and like -5 to -10 Fahrenheit, I would probably recommend adding a second battery to your system. Now, it says on their website that the batteries will last 6 hours at low, 3 hours at medium, and 2 hours on high. I think they're overestimating those by about 10 or 15%. I think those are pretty optimistic times, and in my experience, it didn't live up to that. Now, the temperatures obviously affect battery life, but you should take that into account when you're selling a product that's meant to be used in the dead of winter. So I think a more realistic estimate would be like 5 hours on low, 2.5 hours on medium, and maybe an hour and 45, an hour and a half on high. Remember though, you're pulsing. So if you've got 2.5 hours on medium and you're only pulsing 20 minutes for every hour and a half, you can get through an 8, 9, 10 hour day like that, no problem. But like I say, if you're gonna start to get into really cold conditions, for only an extra $35, I would add an extra battery into your arsenal. I think it's well worth it at that price. Another piece of information, the batteries weigh 3.4 ounces each. Now, let's talk about breathability. First of all, I don't think it really matters. I think when you want to manage moisture and temperature in whitetail stand hunting, you're better off doing it through dumping layers. Like if you're going to walk in without your jacket on. Don't worry about having a bunch of breathable gear because your ultimate priority within that stand is staying warm. That being said, I found the breathability of this gear very satisfactory. I don't think it's up there with some of my top of the line, mountain gear. But for what it is, I think it's completely acceptable. As far as durability goes, I've only used this for one season, so I can't really draw too many conclusions. But I will say that the construction is extremely robust, lots of great stitching. I don't see any frayed parts. None of the cuffs started to open up on me. There was like no real wear and tear from the hunts that I did in them this year. So I think overall, you're gonna find this to be very durable a gear. Now, fit. It's very athletically fit. It is tight. So, it is not flattering. If you got some love handles or a little bit of rolls or some moobs going on, it's gonna show every single bit. Now, you're wearing it as a base layer, so it doesn't really matter, but I do wanna say it's not one of those base layers, that like drapes. This hugs your body. I will get into the sizing in a moment, but I'm wearing the XL in the top and the large in the bottom, and even for me, at 6'1", 240, this stuff is glued to my body. I think, what are my notes about the fit and finish? It has a nice longer torso, which I really appreciate, especially for late season gear. But I would say that the sleeves are kind of abnormally long. Like there is an extra 3 inches of sleeve material that does not need to be there. I have incredibly long arms, and wearing the XL is the smallest I can get away with for the diameter of my torso. And it is way too long on the arms. Now, because it's so elastic, you just bunch it up a little bit and you don't really notice it. I wouldn't consider it a deal breaker, but if I was gonna provide some feedback, I would say you could knock a solid 2 to 3 inches off the arms and they would still be more than long enough for most people. And they do have the little thumb hole cutouts, so if you like to have the back of your hand covered for a more mountaineering style fit, that's completely an option with these as well. But yeah, super tight, super athletic, nice long torso. You want to size down in the pants. If you're an XL up top, I highly doubt you're going to be an XL on the bottom. I always find that interesting. You would think with clothing, they would have the sizes so that you were, I'm the exact same way with Sitka. I'm a size or two smaller in the bottoms than I am in the tops. Same as Stone Glacier. I find that particularly interesting. But yeah, super tight, sleeves are a bit long. Other than that, the fit was really nice. And especially for a base layer, I would prefer something that's like a little bit more snug and has a little bit more stretch in it, because I find it works better for layering overall and doesn't give me that kind of bunched up feeling. Now for options, this only comes in one color. It's kind of like a drab green olive color that they call Pine Creek. And it comes in 6 sizes, small through triple XL. And I'm assuming the triple XL is gonna fit a pretty big lad. Because again, I'm 6'1", 240, and the XL fit me fine with like a little bit of room to spare. Packability, again, I don't really think this matters, but I would say these are only moderately packable. Like they're pretty big. Like it's not like a Sitka Core lightweight or a Stone Glacier Avro that kind of balls up into this like softball sized thing. These are bulky pieces of gear. Like there's cords in here, there's heating elements in here. They've got extra big elastics and doubled up waistbands. Like, yeah, it's gonna take up some room in your pack. But again, it's not like you're packing in to go do most whitetail stand hunting. You're getting geared up at the truck, or you're getting geared up at the lodge, you're going into the stand for the day, and you're coming back to the lodge at night. So for our purposes, I don't really think it affects your buying decision whatsoever. Now, finally, odor control, because I know this is something my whitetail crowd is gonna be interested in. So the top uses 2 technologies from Polygene. It's odor control and odor crunch. I need to do a little bit more research to figure out exactly how these 2 technologies work. But those are 2 kind of industry standard treatment techniques you see for odor control. And I don't know why they went different with the bottoms, but the bottoms use a trademark material called Silver Strike. Again, I'm not super familiar with the technology and how that works. It's basically antimicrobial odor control. Probably has some type of like silver oxide material in it that kills small organisms, so it keeps the garments fresher. But I can't really comment. But I will say they are both treated with a third-party odor control. So I'm not sure. You're still gonna want to take your standard odor protection steps with whitetails. The sprays, watch where you're walking, don't go check your cams before you go get in your stand like that. Like you still got to use common sense. It's not like these are some like magic cloak that's going to cover up your scent, but it's probably not going to make it any worse. All right, there you have it. That's my feedback on the heated core line from Pnuma. I was really happy with it. If you have any more questions, please drop it in the comments section below. If you could gauge with this content in any way, shape, or form, like, comment, share, subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. It's going to boost it up in the algorithm. Again, what did you think about doing these reviews in reverse? Was it more beneficial to just get my recommendation out of the way so that you kind of knew where I stood, and then if you only wanted to watch 5 to 7 minutes, that important 5 to 7 minutes was up front, and then we get into the details later? Or I always use timestamps anyways. Do you prefer a more linear progression to the review and do it old school, and then you get to use the timestamps to kind of hop around and see what you like? Please give me some feedback down in the comments section below. Let me know what you liked. Let me know what else you'd like to see. I got a bunch of back catalog stuff that I've been sitting on for the last couple months, hoping to drop a review a week for the next couple months before hunting season really kicks off. Got a lot more content on the way. And as always, thank you for tuning in.